Hello everybody, my name is Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy Artist, and we are going live today with our beautiful Thankful Windmill. So let me show you the model. This is a very simple painting. Here we go. Ta-da! Let's take it all the way across. All right, actually one of the hardest parts with this is actually just doing the tracing in the very beginning, and then the painting part is super simple. So let me show you the template that we have to start with here. We make these for y'all, so it makes this process super easy. So here is our beautiful little windmill. Howdy everybody. And then a cute little heart. So I have this all traced, all ready to go. So here we go. This is what it looked like in the very beginning. And then the other thing that I did, this just requires a simple ruler at home, but basically you just take your ruler and you can go ahead and line out some awesome shiplap in the background. So that makes that part really easy too. And I did connect two rulers. Howdy, Vavna. Greetings. I actually taped two rulers together, and that helped me do my shiplap all the way across, because I think it's kind of annoying to have to line them both up. So can you just, oh wait, where am I? There we go. Okay. I'll get with it. I don't know, I'm having a late start today. See, look at that masterful craftsmanship. And then these rulers are hilarious. They say, the hose knows. You know, I got all these for free and I wonder why. They were from the fire department. I don't know if they thought about what they were saying on that, but kind of funny. Okay, all right, so there's our ruler, there's our template. We have our kit with us today, so we have our 3 awesome brushes here, and we've got lots of awesome paint all loaded up, ready to go. And we're gonna start with our background first. So I'm gonna use the biggest brush that I've got, and it's very simple in the background. I'm just mixing up a little bit of some gray. So I'm gonna take a big old dollop of white, all right, just like that. And then a teeny little touch of black. So just barely touch into the black, just like that, small amount. Mix that together, and this will give me a really pretty light gray color. So I'll mix that in. Again, big dollop of white, little tiny touch of black. Hi, Susan. I just saw you last night. All right, let me make sure you guys can see this, and I'll try to keep out of the way. Y'all just yell at me or something. Well, you can't yell at me. Ah. I can yell at you though. You can, you know, do in all caps at me. Say, hey, you're in the way of the painting. But I'll try to stay out of the way on that. All right, so again, big drop of white, little touch of black. This makes a really pretty light gray. I'm gonna sweep this back and forth in a nice horizontal stroke. And my focus is on definitely you having relaxation with the template. So I'm actually going to sweep through, and I can do that because I did my tracing with a Sharpie. Let me give you a visual on this. This is a Sharpie. This is a permanent marker. Hi, Sherry, welcome. So this is what I like to do as my finishing touch when I trace out the whole template, so that it actually does bleed through the paint, and it makes it to where I can just sweep through with a light hand, and then I can come back in and still find my design. So it makes it super easy. So I'm gonna do a light hand here, and I'll push this really light gray just back and forth. This allows me to be very, you know, loose and free, very carefree with this first beginning step. And don't get scared. I know it looks like I'm just painting over this, but it will bleed through and I'll be able to see it all, and then I'll be able to work back into it here in just a moment. Now, once I get this foundation down with this first layer of paint, then as I do this, I can also sort of brush in a little bit of a distressed look in the background. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So a little bit of this pure black, tiny amount. I'm going to hold the brush more over to the side, parallel to the canvas, and I'll just lightly kind of drag that across. So this starts to make that wood in the background look pretty old. But I definitely do this before I set it up with some wet paint, because I want that soft blend of wet paint to wet paint. So again, I've got a lot of this really light gray happening here as a base. It's still very wet, so I can come back in with this darker color and just lightly drag that across the canvas. All right, so that gives you an idea of how that works. I'm going to continue on with this really pretty light gray color. Keep mixing that along, and I'll keep pushing this all the way through. Again, just working right through that design, but I can still see it. And the more the paint dries, the more you will see that Sharpie bleed through. Now, there's a little bit of a caution with the Sharpie. You do want to be careful. So I always recommend, here's what I recommend. With beginners, you want to start with pencil first and make sure that everything in your foreground's out in the front, and that way you can kind of back out and do a little bit of erasing with elements that are behind elements in the painting. And like for example, in this one, the heart is out in front. So we want to make sure that all the windmill is behind it. So if you have any line work that is interrupting that heart, you'd want to erase out of that. So you can do all of your tidying up to begin with your pencil. Then you can come back in and go ahead and do a hard line with the Sharpie all the way around it with the black line. And then that way you know you've got that firm line work to work into with your painting. So that is one way to do it. And I do it that way for sure when I'm filming live, just due to it's with speed. It helps me to work really fast and keep the process moving. Another way to do this, if you're working at home and you've got all kinds of time, then what I would actually recommend there is just going ahead and painting in all of this background first. Doing all this background, just in that way you can just be as free, as carefree as you want. Definitely make it very relaxing for yourself. Then what you want to do is you want to let all of that set up and dry. And then when that is set up and dry, and just it kind of depends on how heavy of a hand you have with the paint, then you can come back in, take your template that we give you, place it over the top, and then you can do all your line work on top. That way you can see it really well. So that's another way. So that's an awesome way to do it too. And we have a lot of people that come. We had our, let's see, our second show since the whole COVID. I don't like to say it out loud. That, you know, that weird pandemic thing we have going on. But anyway, we had our first show. No, not first, second show. And so we had a group of people in here last night. And my regulars, they all know that they know I have templates, but they just go ahead and work in all their background first, and then they lay the template on and they do that over the top. It just makes it a lot easier. Hello, Audrey from Enid. Welcome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and continue on with a little bit more of this light gray all the way up at the top. So remember how I pushed in some of that black here at the bottom? I'm gonna continue that through all the way up to the very top here. And we have more new people, so I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out here. We've got Bobna, Susan, Sherry, Audrey. Welcome. And there's a lot more people on there, and I'm so sorry, but I can't see your names. But hello to everybody out there, and welcome. We are having a beautiful day here in this is our sunroom back here. And I have a sleeping dog and a sleeping husband on the couch right next to me. Isn't that wonderful? I put him right to sleep. So we all have a gift. It's like my husband's always like, "Oh, good, you're going live. I get to take a nap." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks a lot." So he's like, "Well, it's really peaceful." I'm like, "Well, that's good." All right, so I'm going to continue kind of working this in back and forth here. This gives me that kind of old antique look. I am being very sparing with the black paints. Hello, Delana, how are you? And I'll just keep working this through. A little bit of a flat brush hitting the canvas too here, making sure that your brush is facing parallel to the canvas. So what that means is you want it where that flat side is facing that canvas. And that'll help give you that nice distressed look happening through the background. So in case you cannot see it, I definitely have some areas up here that are still peeking through with the Sharpie. Let me give you a little bit of a close-up here, but you can see how it is definitely still bleeding through, so I will be able to easily work back into the shape here. So now I need to work in a lot of my black. So I am going to start with a smaller brush, but not too much smaller. I'm actually going to start with my Mama brush here. And I want a nice thin line with the black paint. So I'm going to take this lovely brush and I'm going to push back and forth here into the black paint. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my edge is nice and thin. There it is. So I do apply firm pressure on the brush when I go to load it up. And then I'm going to do as much of this long line work as I can to go ahead and frame back in the entire windmill shape here. And so it's actually easier to use a really thin, long line edge. So, you know, actually you could even use this, or, you know, if you've got, let's see, let me give you an example, like Big Daddy here. This is not a great Big Daddy, but you kind of get my point. That's a lot longer of an edge. And so that could actually be pressed out really thin, and it could also do long lines. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and follow these along here. Some people think that because this is a thin line, they will mistakenly pick up the smallest brush that they have. And this is actually a very challenging brush to use because it is so thin. It is a nice thin line edge. And this is great for curves. But when you're trying to do something that's very long, the hand tends to get shaky. And so as people are trying to do a long line, their hand shakes a little bit through that process. So this actually helps stabilize the hand to use a much longer line edge. So I try to use this as much as possible. So every single long line I can get, I hit with this. And it just makes it so much easier. So I'll have all these to work in. And I get as close as I can to that edge. Now when it gets to be, you know, at some point I'm going to have to get a little bit more detailed. And so I'll have to switch gears to my beautiful little buddy brush. See how still a thin line edge, but much smaller. So he'll be able to get into those really tiny areas. So I can still keep working in. I don't want to miss this one. We've got lots of lines. My plan, which didn't happen. You know, anybody else have one of those? A plan that didn't happen? I was going to actually have all this black work done on a second canvas so I could be like Martha Stewart, you know how she bakes stuff and then it's magically done in a second oven in her kitchen, and she just pulls it out. She goes, oh my gosh, look at it. It's here. It's ready to go. That's what I was going to do, but it didn't happen. Yeah. Let's see, what do we do while I'm lining all this out? There's all kinds of fun things we can talk about. We're going to be doing this for a little bit. Let's see, I don't know what kind of headache this is. Maybe some of y'all out there can help me figure it out. But I keep getting these strange, they feel like pressure in my head. They wake me up at about the same time every morning. And so it is about 3:45 a.m. And of course you're like, really? Like, I want to get up early, but come on. And hey, thank you. So I have those wake me up. And I did not get to bed until about 12:30 a.m. last night, so I was not real thrilled about that wake-up call. So I went and took some of my Excedrin, which I normally love Excedrin if I'm just going to get up for the day, but I really felt like I needed to take care of my body and get more rest. So I didn't sleep very well. And, you know, anybody can weigh in on thoughts about, you know, what I need to do. I'm always looking for great advice. But I did finally get some rest, went back to sleep. And then we got up and we had some beautiful coffee. And then we are actually, let's see, something new that just started this Sunday. Boy, I'm gonna have to admit to something. So we have a cowboy church that's meeting here on Sunday. I didn't go. I was here, so it was funny. Joe and I were like, "Hey, you know, technically we're here at church, but We didn't actually go, so, but we felt like, you know, we were there in spirit. So it was in our building. So anyway, we had that happening. We had coffee. And yeah, so and we think it's sort of ironic that the cowboy church is meeting here. And of course they feel right at home because we have cowboy hats everywhere, you know, so that's pretty funny. But yeah, so they meet here now every Sunday and have church here. We'll start doing that. And then as soon as they're done, then I'll teach you guys how to paint. So it's just kind of funny because our whole building is just like being recorded live from like 9 a.m. to well into the afternoon with all these different functions that are happening here. So yeah, it's been a really pretty, beautiful morning. And then my honey bear made me pancakes this morning. And we're on keto, so that's a big treat, but he does it with that special almond flour and all that good stuff. All right, so I am still doing line work, and I'm basically just trying to get as much of that line work as I can, because that is probably the most just time-consuming part of this process. And then once you get that line work done, then you're going to have a lot more freedom to actually start to move into it. So this starts to have a little bit of a bend on each one of these, and the mama brush doesn't cooperate just super great with that. We have curves happening here. So I need to switch gears here to a smaller brush. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to my little buddy brush here. And I'm going to press back and forth into the paint. Ta-da! There it is. All right, so again, firm pressure and get a really nice thin line edge. And then this will allow me to have a little bit of like some flexibility with movement. So I have the ability to do a little bit more of a curve happening here. So each end of the blade kind of dips in a little bit. It's pretty subtle, but there is a slight, like it goes for a little curve and then down to a valley and then back up. But it's very subtle. So that happens on the end of each one of these blades. Just like that. Kind of reconnect back up into that other line. So this painting reminds me of farm life, and I'm trying to get inspiration for different ideas with farm life. I've been looking at I have a book called Ralph Lauren. Some of you may have heard of him. Anyway, he's a huge mentor for me in the business world. I've always loved him ever since I was a young girl. And so I have his big book on my coffee table, and I've been trying to get inspiration. And so he's got lots of different ideas with the cowboy life, the western life, the farm life. So thinking about that this morning, so we're having coffee. Clothes on the clothesline, old pictures, vegetables, fruit in the garden, milk cans, mason jars. I've done a lot of those. The whole world's done a lot of those. Always taking requests on that. All right, we have a little curve here happening. So this is the round circle of the windmill. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little line right here. Take that all the way around. All right, what's remaining here is the heart. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little curve around the heart. Make sure that's firmed in so you can see that. We don't lose that. Again, still just using my little buddy brush. And my heart will actually be a different color here in a moment, but right now we're still just kind of working in all of this black. We have one more little line that we can work in here all the way around. So this will end each little blade in there. And then we can start to relax a little bit and work back into each one of these shapes. All right, so, phew, all our black lines are done. Awesome. Okay, so I do want to work in with as big of a brush as I can, you know, just for speed and getting as much done as possible in that smaller space. So I am going to use a Big Daddy brush here. So I'm going to go ahead and push into just some pure black. And you can do a little bit of a color variation on this too, like maybe a little bit of the brown here, a little touch of that. Kind of give it a nice dark teak brown look. And then go ahead and push into that shape. The other thing that you can do too is if you want to give it kind of a worn, weathered look, you can add a little bit of a color variation to it. But I'm going to get this completely wet with paint first. And then I'll show you how we can touch in some of those accent colors. So I'm going to finish out this line here. All right, so while this is still wet, if you want to touch into maybe like a little bit of some gold, you kind of push that into one of those little corners. And see, that just kind of gives an old look there, as if maybe there's a little bit of the blade that has rusted a little bit there. And I'll push one into this corner too. And you can leave some of that, you know, a little bit more on the canvas. You don't have to blend it all in, but you can do little taps of that still in there. So that's kind of a fun optional look too. Or you can just keep it very simple, like I know in the original model. I just kept it a very simple black, and I just did it with just one solid color. So again, it just depends. If you want to try something a bit more advanced, you can certainly kind of add in a little bit of some accent colors here and there. Another fun accent color in this is also maybe a little bit of some turquoise. So a turquoise mix here, I've got a little bit of some blue and white and some green. Let's mix all that together. By the way, this is my little bit brush here. And you can do just tiny little, just barely drag the brush on the edges, and that just gives kind of a nice little patina to it. So that's also kind of a fun little look too. You can experiment with that. All right, I am putting that brush into the water. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my mama brush because I need to go ahead and work into the blades now. But the Big Daddy brush was a little bit too big for these shapes. Still want a pretty big brush, but I don't want to get to the point where the brush is so big that I'm going out of those beautiful lines that we created in the beginning. So we worked pretty hard getting all those done. We don't want to struggle with that. So this is a really nice size brush to go ahead. Hi, Mark. We are working with air conditioning in our studio thanks to that man. Thank you so much. We're so excited. We don't know what to do. And then speaking of how much fun we're having with the thermostat, and that shameless plug, that's Integrated Air. If anyone is having air conditioning problems, that's who you should call, Mark Doolittle with Integrated Air. All right, so he is fabulous. And Joe was showing me how I can just touch the screen and, uh-oh, no sound. Can y'all hear me now? Can y'all hear me? All right, somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I don't know why I don't have any sound, unless Facebook is just tripping. Because I can still see y'all. So, yeah, let me know if you can hear me. I'm gonna send a message in writing. Oh, is it thumbs up? You can hear me? Okay. Okay, yay! Yeah, I don't know. Oh, yay, awesome. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. I guess it's probably not Facebook's fault, but internet company. I don't know what happens, but sometimes it just, yay! Okay, sweet, sweet, sweet. Yeah, it's kind of important to hear me. Cool. But yeah, back to my exciting air conditioning story. I got to touch the screen, and then magically the temperature appears, and then you can just like move it back and forward like a touch screen, and then you can just adjust your temperature like a touch screen. And it's amazing. I've never experienced anything quite so high-tech and wonderful in my whole life. Yay, thank you. So yeah. So we had fun. That was another little activity we did this morning. We played with our thermostat. Just we watched it go up and down. Went and felt the cold air. Danced. It was super awesome. Yeah. All right, so let's see here. Still painting into the shape of our windmill. Just lots of black in here. And remember, you can continue to work in accent colors if you want to. So see how I did a little bit of some accent colors over here with a little touch of that turquoise or the gold. So that is certainly an option. Or you can definitely keep it very simple and just do pure black. And then I'll be teaching you how to do a really fun pattern over the top. So just, there's always options here on this. So still working in all this black. So this is that little, the part I'm doing right now is the round circle that happens in the shape of the windmill. And then I'll just continue working into every single one of these blades in here. So this can also be a really therapeutic part of the painting process too. So people are always talking about painting as therapy. And it most definitely is. They actually use this with a lot of war veterans to help calm their mind. And then I just know that after talking to people who have gone through any, like a traumatic situation, this is an activity where the best way I've heard to describe it is that people just feel normal again. So they basically just zone out when they're doing it, and they just forget everything, and they're just really in the moment, and they forget everything else. So that's actually a very desirable place to be when you're dealing with traumatic situations. So, and I know I really love it. It just really helps me calm down. It's a nice balance between having to, run a business and all that's required with that, and then just wind down with it all. And there's Miss Rolinda. Howdy. So yes, if you are having any kind of stress in your life, we highly recommend painting. It works wonders, so very therapeutic. And I always bring up war veterans because I know at first I don't know why this happens, but a lot of, hey, no worries, just join us whenever you can. For some reason, a lot of men will, they'll go, oh no, I don't do that kind of thing. That's my wife does that, or my daughter does that. No, just, it's not for me. And then they don't understand how calming and valuable it can be for them. And it really, really is. It's literally just super life-changing, very helpful, very therapeutic to do this. So for everybody. So highly recommend it. All right. Man, we are almost done with this big, beautiful windmill. Well, at least this part. So we have more fun stuff to do. We've got this tiny little area in here. And then, oh, don't want to forget this little line of black there. Okay. So, Yay! Okay, one other thing on this too, in terms of angling and getting perspective in here, when I'm at the bottom section of this and I need to get a nice straight line, I actually have to pull out my canvas just a little bit here. And of course, if you're just working at home and you don't have an easel, you could almost just lay it on a tabletop. But I like to just go ahead and pull this where basically there's nothing underneath. And this allows me to drag my brush just completely just right off the canvas and get a nice thin line edge there. All right, sweet. All right, so while I still have my line edge here, I'm gonna go ahead and press back and forth here into the paint. Nice thin line, that's really important. Make sure it doesn't get filled with too much paint. Let me give you a lesson on that. If your brush does get filled with too much paint, the bristles will start to spread out. And then when you go try to make a nice thin line, you'll basically get just a big bushy mark. So we do not want that to happen. So again, firm pressure, and then check it, nice thin line. And then that is most definitely needed before we work in our shiplap. So I'm gonna do a nice line. I already have the lines worked in. I did those early. They're now bleeding through the paint, which is awesome. Did that with a permanent marker. So I'm gonna go ahead and just lightly go across that line all the way across. And I personally feel like it's easier to go in a horizontal stroke to get that nice straight line all the way across. So if you have to turn your canvas, depending on what you're working on, to get a nice straight line, you can absolutely just turn it and then just work this all the way across. And then you don't have to go all the way, like you can break this up a little bit. That way it kind of gives that look as if it's a little bit more old and weathered too. So that's, you know, don't feel like you have to be too perfect with these lines that are coming through here with the shiplap in the background. All right, so great foundation that is done so far. And then I'm going to go ahead and work in that beautiful color of our heart. Now there's lots of fun options on this color. You can do your favorite color. I'm going to go ahead and mix up a beautiful turquoise today. And I did this earlier, but let's go ahead and remix too. Okay, so we have, oh, by the way, this is Little Buddy. All right, and he is part of my kit. So we've got a dollop of blue, a dollop of green, and then a dollop of white. All right, so here we go. We've got white, blue, and green. Let's mix all those together. This is our beautiful turquoise color. Quite lovely. Let's do a little bit more white there. I'm going to lighten that up just a little bit. All right, and Little Buddy is a great tool because you can hold him like a pencil and you can make those line edges around the shape here. Kind of curve that around. And then here in a minute, I'm going to be able to turn it over to the flat side, which is also brilliant because if I was using a really small brush, it would just really dig into the paint and make lots of tiny little lines. But a flat brush, you can turn it over to the side like what I'm doing now, and it will smooth it out and it'll allow you to get better coverage over the surface, even in a small area. So again, I'm having to turn that brush parallel to the canvas, and then there's my good coverage right in there in the center. All right, so there's our beautiful little heart in the middle of our windmill. All right, sweet. Now we have some pretty cool little detail that we can go ahead and start to work in. So I'm going to do a fun dot trick. All right, so this dot trick, let's talk about this. We have every brush has a handle. I hope your brushes have handles. Some of mine don't. But you know, you do this as long as I do, and you work with all kinds of creative tools. But this brush has a handle, yay! And we're gonna use that handle, not the bristles this time, but the handle. And I'm gonna go ahead and dip into the white paint, all right? And then I will be pressing straight forward into the paint here. So I'm basically going to just do a little fun pattern with my little circles. Oh. All right, also make sure that your canvas is stabilized. All right, so I'm gonna do a fun little pattern here. Well, just a second. All right, stay, okay. We're good. I think I've got my canvas squared away. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and push into each one of these blades, making that fun little dot pattern. I'm going to start with the outsides first. Let's do one up here too. See, the beautiful thing about this is that it will make that same size dot every single time. And if for some reason you miss it on the first one, you can always just re-emphasize it one more time and it should just, you know, dot it right out for you. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and do here and here. I guess I've got one theoretically happening right in there. All right, and then here and here. So this will make for some very fun pattern. You can also do polka dot into different shapes too. The other thing that this dot pattern can be used for is even like little flowers. So if you put them in tiny little clusters, then it can make really pretty little flowers in a bouquet. So there's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with this. All right, and then I may want to do this. You know what, I'm gonna do a thinner circle. So let me show you what that looks like. So different handle here, and so let's do the smallest brush. All right, so here's a little bit, much smaller end of the handle, so let's show you what this looks like. Same technique, but we're just gonna dip into that white paint again, and this time we're doing some smaller, because this is a smaller area in here, so we're gonna go ahead and do smaller circles. So that gives you an idea of how to be a little bit flexible with your creativity, do different sizes there. One other thing I do with this little technique is it helps me easily make like the little flash points and eyes. So if we ever have a painting, which we'll do that, I'm sure, soon. I can't think of what we have coming up. Oh, you know what? We have a fish Tuesday. I might have a flash point in the eyes. I don't know. But basically when you're doing a painted eye, I try to keep it pretty simple because that's my specialty. I teach beginners how to paint. But I do like to teach little tricks like this that are very simple, and so if we're trying to put a little bit more of some expression into the eye, we can just dot right into the paint and then dot down on the eye, and then that gives that flash point of light in the eye, which brightens up the whole eye in a painting and just makes it beautiful. So fun. But in this painting, we're just doing a beautiful pattern. So this is really cute just for that. Just a nice little fun, kind of folksy style. All right, so now what we want to do is you can, just depends on how minimal you are with this process, or if you want something to be a bit more decorative, you can keep going. So you're welcome to leave it just the way it is, or you can continue on with a little bit more layering. So I'm going to continue on with a bit more layering. Our little buddy brush here is ready to go, and we're going to go ahead and keep working in with our white paint, and I'm going to do a little bit of some line work here. So I'm going to push into the white paint. All right, so nice thin line, perfect. Again, you want to watch that. We talked about that earlier. If your bristles fill up with paint, they spread out. It makes it very difficult to have a nice thin line. So we just have to check for that first, firm pressure, and then I'll start to make little tiny lines. So it's kind of like we're just connecting those dots. And I'll take this all the way around, and it's just a light little dash, light sketch of a line here. Also, if you need to stabilize your hand a little bit, a couple little tricks, you can take your other arm to stabilize your hand and hold it, or if you've got a tabletop, you can kind of rest your hand on your tabletop. There's lots of different ways to help stabilize. So a lot of us at home are working with just tabletops, just sitting down at your kitchen table. All right, now we can also do longer lines in here too. So I'm going to go ahead and do a long sketch here and here and here. And again, none of this is literal. This is all just very decorative. So just have fun with it. Use your imagination. And that is definitely more my style. Is more of the imaginative painting. So I love to take iconic shapes and present them in a decorative way. So, all right, so we're still just continuing on with these little lines here. Just a light sketch. Don't feel like you have to connect completely. Take this all the way around. And even if it has a little bit of a soft blend into the black, still gets a light blended soft charcoal gray color, which is also nice. Now that one went a little bit too deep in there. The paint's still pretty wet, so I'm going to hit it one more time. All right. All right, one more thing here. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more lines here. All right, so we are completely highlighted. This is exciting. Okay. Now we're going to do a little bit of some decorative scroll work here in the center. All right, so I need my little bit brush again. Okay, so, all right, here we go, little bit. Now, this can be a little bit intimidating to some people, so what I recommend is let it completely set up and dry. Play with your design work with a pencil first. That way you can get comfortable with it. When you're happy with it, then you can start to paint over the top of that design. Mine's still a little bit wet, so for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with mine. But I'm going to do a little bit of a scrolling heart here, so just kind of sketch that on a little bit. You actually kind of see that dig into the paint. And, that's an interesting technique as well. Very textural. If you like the look of that too, you could almost just leave the paint wet, dig into it with a pencil if you're comfortable with it. It's kind of risky, but it could be fun. If it doesn't work out, you just paint over it. So, all right, so now I'm going to do the other side here. So you get a hint of what that looks like to begin with. And that's, again, fun and textural, or you can overlay with paint at this point, which I'm going to, just to make sure it really pops. So I've got my little bit brush here. I'm going to do a quick little twist here into the paint. This gives me a nice fine point. You can see how that's becoming very tiny at the very end. That's what we want. Again, I'm just kind of twisting it between my fingertips. All right, so now I'm going to hold it like a pencil towards the canvas like this, and then just follow along the sketch line that we did at the very beginning here. Now, see what happened? That's about as far as I could get, and then my brush ran out of paint. It also picked up some wet black, so I need to go ahead and do a quick little wipe on the rag here so that I'm not just continuing on with more black. And then I'm going to go ahead and reload into some white paint, and then I'll finish up here. Kind of work back into the center. And as a reference, if you're kind of wondering, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to do that scroll? If you turn it this direction, you'll notice that is really just a simple letter S. So a simple letter S is what I did on this side. And so if you can have your brain connect to what is common and known to you, then you'll be able to pull off that shape. And then I just kind of add one more little curl on the end of the S on both sides. And then this is almost like a backwards letter C. So that's, if you can just kind of think of it in those terms to help simplify it in your brain. All right, here we go again. I'm going to do a quick little twist into the white paint. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back into this position here. Got a little curl in there, and then I'll sweep it back around. Got to reload again. All right, so we have a fun little decorative scrolling shape happening right there in the blade. So that is beautiful. And then all we have to do is the lettering. So we have the word thankful here. And we do have some words on our website. We're working on that. So we're trying to get it to the point where this is a promise, and I promise I'm going to do this, but I need to source some graphite paper so that I can start selling that too. And we have to first make sure we can find it. And right now the supplies are a little weird in the United States, but graphite paper is super awesome because you can take our template for the word that is already sized for these shapes in here, and then you can just do a transfer right onto the image. It's very easy. So you just lay the graphite paper down, lay our template down with the word, and then just basically trace over the top, and then it's just on there. So you'll want to wait until that's completely done. And so hope to get that loaded up there today on the website. But for right now, here's a little tutorial on just how to go ahead and freestyle your lettering. So, you know, if you are super nervous about the placement of it, I recommend using a ruler again to at least give you a flat line as a, you know, basically a starting point. So for example, if you're in here, this is, yeah, mine's all dry. Okay, so like right in here, I'm gonna go ahead and make one little flat line here. That'll be my guide. And so then in here, what I would do is I would start to write out the word, for example. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my word thankful. So we were calling this thankful here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start here. Here's my T. I think I've got paint on this. I guess I just used it. All right, so I've got my T here. Here's my H. And then also when you do this first, you can also check your spelling. And then also make sure that it fits, because lettering has a tendency to get very big, especially, hello Kathy. Yes, we have new people. Let's see who I see. It's different. Kathy, Connie, Mark, Rolinda. Mark, if you're still there, yes. Hi everybody. So with lettering, you want to make sure that it all fits, check your spelling, and you can see how we just barely made it. So that is really important, because what can happen if you start to just paint it on, you know, my free spirits like to do that, but sometimes what happens is they get halfway through a word and they are out of canvas. So they have to redo everything. So this makes that process a lot easier. A little bit of planning goes a long way on this. Now you can either, easiest way now over a dry canvas is to use your Sharpie to go ahead and do your lettering. But for my purists out there, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to go ahead and paint it on over the top. And so I will be using my little bit brush again. I do need to give my little bit a bath here. All right, little quick tutorial on giving your brushes a bath. So you want to go ahead and twist it round and round and round into the water. Apply some firm pressure on that. Let all that paint leave the brush. It is now clean. Yippee. Now, here's what's important. I never just take this wet, dripping brush, see that? Yeah, into the paint and go right to the canvas, because then I will get what looks like a mascara run happening down my canvas. So I'm going to dry it off really well. Now the bristles are just moist, all right, and they are ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little spin here into the paint, twist it round and round and round. All right, that will give me a nice fine point. See how beautiful that is? All right, now I'm going to go ahead and follow along with my lettering here. Now, a little stabilization technique here that's awesome too with lettering is you can rest the weight of your hand on your pinky, and this will help stabilize your hand. So it helps, especially if you've got a little bit of a shaky hand, this really helps. And I just follow that pencil line. And then having that pencil line there really helps give you a lot of confidence. All right, this is going to be kind of a fancy curly QK. I think those are pretty fun. They're kind of old school. Got a little bit of a dry brush happening there, so I'm going to firm up that end. And sometimes dry brush on letters is actually a desirable thing. Now on any of your loops with your letters, you want to make sure and try to go on the outside of that trace. And here's why, because if you do your painting on the inside of the loop, you'll close the hole. And before you know it, you look back and your L doesn't look like an L anymore. It just looks like a straight line. And so same thing with like the K and the H and the L. I tried to make sure that I took that painted brush line around the loop. Always go around the loop. That'll maintain the inner circle of your loop as just open. So that really helps with lettering. All right, and then signing your masterpiece. That is one of the most final touches here. I think, you know what, I see one more little detail before I sign. We have a little bit of an accent with white. Let's see, I need my little bit brush again here. So here is a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit of some white. I'm gonna do a quick little twist here into the paint. And I'm gonna do just a quick little swish of white here to accent that heart. All right, so we are getting really close. Okay, now I'm happy. Okay, so here we go. Signing your masterpiece. So this can be done with a Sharpie or with the paint. For grins, I'm gonna show you with the Sharpie, just so you can kind of get a feel for the difference. So down here, it's all completely dry. And then I'll just pull this out a little bit, kind of gives me better positioning on the angle. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sign my masterpiece. So you can see how fluid and smooth the Sharpie is. So awesome. That or a paint pen is also a great tool for that. All right. So we are done. So very exciting. We did such a great job. Yay! Woohoo! Y'all did awesome at home. Remember, we always keep our videos up all the time, so you can always come back here and revisit anytime you want. You're welcome to rewind, pause, slow it down, whatever you need to do to get a step done. And all the supplies and all the tools that you need are always down in the comments. I also try to show a lot of pictures too of like the stages of process, like for example the trace work and all that good stuff too for you. And then we have everything you need for the kit is on our website. So that's tipsyartist.com, and we always give you, so check it out. See, we've got the templates for you. All right, and then of course it comes with a beautiful box of colors, paints, and then of course your brush set that comes with the kit too, and the canvas too. So it's just everything that you need, and yeah, so super fun, and we love spending time with y'all with our live painting videos. We will be back Tuesday, and let me show you what we're doing Tuesday. This is so exciting. This is one of my most favorite paintings. All right. So we are doing Kiss My Country Bass. This is inspired by Mr. Blake Shelton. Yes, Kiss My Country Bass. He says something else. But I just think this is super cute. So I actually want to have this done into a t-shirt too. I'm really excited about it. But this is a great painting. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. So that will be Tuesday at noon. And we look forward to painting with y'all then. There are a lot of super fun techniques on that one because there's like flowers and butterflies and the fish gills and just all that fun stuff. So that one's gonna be a fun one. So yeah, so y'all have a beautiful Sunday. Be safe, be well, and I'll see y'all Tuesday.